This video is about factoring. So our next standard is factoring in the quadratic formula. The first step is knowing how to factor. So if you remember in the first video with the diamond puzzles that you watched, we are essentially going to keep doing that same process for each of these to factor each equation completely. So we're going to start off with making an x, and this will kind of mimic that diamond puzzle that you just worked on. So for this x pattern, again, the top number will be the number of whatever numbers go here, we will multiply to get that top part of the x. And then whatever those two numbers are on the sides, we'll add together to get the bottom number. So the good thing about factoring is that the equation has the numbers that you'll place in your diamond or your x pattern. So I'm going to show you two numbers here. I'm going to highlight them in different colors. We have 27, which this equation is in standard form. So 27 is your C value, if you remember. The C value always goes in the top part of the diamond or the x. The middle number, which is our B value, the 12, will always go in the bottom portion of our x. So your job then is to think, what numbers can I multiply to get 27, but also add to give me 12? I have a factor sheet that I'll include in your list of assignments. Definitely use that because it will help you and kind of take away the time that it takes to think of the factors. So to solve this, I know that 9 times 3 is 27, and I know that 9 plus 3 is 12. So these are my factors, these are my solutions. So what I do with those numbers is I write it in factored form, like you learned in the last standard. I'm going to put x and x, and then I'm just going to place those numbers. I'm going to put plus 9 and plus 3. So if you notice, my 9 and 3 are positive, so when I place them in factored form, my sign has to reflect that. Okay? Let's look at the one below it, number 3. We're going to draw our x. Remember that the bottom is C, and the top part of that diamond is the C value. The bottom is the B value. So I'm going to do my C value first, and it's a negative 88. Remember to carry the sign with it. And then my B value is 3. So remember, I have to think what numbers can multiply together to give me negative 88, but add together to give me 3. And I need a negative 88. So I know that 11 and 8 give me 88, but it has to be a negative 88 when I multiply them, but I also need a positive 3 when I add them together. So I'm going to make my 8 negative, because 11 times negative 8 is negative 88, and 11 plus negative 8 is positive 3. So I'll write in factored form, put my letter B's because that's the letter that we're using in this equation, and then I'm going to take my two factors and put them inside the parentheses. Okay, and that is how you do that section for factoring. This should sound familiar because if you completed the worksheet of factoring before, this is all we did on that first worksheet. I do want to show you a couple things here. If you look at this equation right here, there's no C value, so we're just going to put a placeholder of plus 0 in there. So when we do our factoring x, we'll have 0 and negative 10 for this one. All right, so the new thing that I want to show you here is that for these down here, you're going to solve each equation by factoring. But I want to draw your attention because some of these don't equal 0. See how the number 13 equals negative 10? You have to make sure your equation equals 0 before you can start factoring. So in order to do that, I'm going to add 10 to both sides. and I'm going to have r squared minus 4r, oops, not minus 7. Negative 7 plus 10 is positive 3. So this is the equation that I use to factor. So I'm going to draw my x. I'm going to put 3 in the top portion, negative 4 in the bottom. Remember that this has to multiply and this has to add together. So I need to think, what are my factors of 3 that I can add together to give me negative 4? And I know that negative 3 and negative 1 will work, because negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3, and negative 3 plus negative 1 is negative 4. So I will write out my factors, and I will have my two factor forms here for this equation. For these ones, you do need to go one step further and find out what our solutions are. So what that means is you're going to take each factor and equal it to 0. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So my one solution is x equals 3. And then over here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and my other solution is x equals 1. That's a little different. We didn't do that up here, but we are asking you that you factor and find solutions for the bottom portion here. So if you will complete all of these problems, well, you know, the more you practice, the better off you will be. But how about we just go with number 2, 5, 6, and let's do 4. And then down here, do 9, 10, 14, and 16. Okay, so you have 4 problems for each section to complete. If you have any questions, please send me an email.